Hello, and thank you for stopping by Britain's Hidden History. If you are interested in finding out the version of British history that used to be taught in the schools, that used to be widely accepted, and is known as the authentic history of Britain, then you have come to the right place. Were the Britons descended from Troy? When did the Trojan Wars happen? Are the lost tribes of Israel alive and well and living in Wales? Is it possible to read hieroglyphics using Welsh, using cymroglyphics? The birth of Western Christianity, did that take place in Britain? Was the Trojan War in Cambridge? The myth of a Roman invasion, and of course, the stories of King Arthur, the historical King Arthur, and there's two of them. We look at the works of Wilson and Blackett, people like Fomenko, Velikovsky, all these different sources, Clemens Beaumont, Anthony Thom, looking at the ancient history of Britain, how the star mounds, how things are laid out by astrological terms, all the way back to ancient Assyria, right up until about the 7th, 8th century, well, up until Norman times, really. And we can even look a bit at the myth of that. So, if this sounds like the sort of thing you're interested in, please join in. Join this rapidly growing community. There are so many people out there researching, coming back with amazing finds, both from the books and from the places. So, Thursday evening, 8 o'clock UK time, there's a show every week, includes interviews with people out there finding things, loads of fun and games. It's a nice light-hearted channel, so please keep it family friendly, be polite to each other. And then most days of the week, almost every day now, there's a video up, a little bite-sized chunk of history for you to think about and the evidence that goes with it. So please welcome aboard, be active, join the chat groups, join the Facebook groups, do the whole thing, get involved, use your grey matter and find out what is going on with this Britain's hidden history.
Welcome everyone. Summer schedule. That's what I'm euphemistically calling what's going to happen throughout the hot months of the summer. I'm very confident that we will continue to have hot time in Britain. It's been very hot the last 5 weeks. I have a leak in the boot of my car, which I think is coming in from the light fittings and the rear lights. And I put talcum. I took the carpet out in the boot, peeled it back and covered the boot in talcum powder, and the minute I did that it stopped raining. We haven't had any rain since, just the odd small shower overnight last night. So the summer schedule is largely reruns with our friend Ross, one of his live shows, maybe not the full 2 hours of a 2-hour rerun. I may split them into two, but the idea is for less computer preparation work for me, because I struggled a bit with that heat we had just the other day. Threw a wobbly. So we'll be topping and tailing the reruns. That's the difference between an ordinary rerun and the summer schedule. So we've got a new Arnie violin video to play, and I'm going to start the show with that. Take it away, Arnie. Well done, Arnie. Getting good, isn't he? And I was amazed. I went down the house last week, I think it was, and Arnie was there, and he's taller than me now. Well, that's not hard mind. I'm only 5'5", but he wasn't taller than me the previous time that I'd met him, which seems to be quite a while ago now. So happy Father's Day for those who were able to celebrate, or to celebrate those who are no longer with us. And if you've been able to go out today with a meal with your dad, then that's been lovely. Stepfather is also a good position to be in, and grandfather even. So I managed to get a present through the post from my granddaughter. I was happy enough with that. Thanks very much. And of course, whenever I'm having a Guinness, I can say cheers to my dad. The top and tailing will itself entail feedback on the live chat. So that's the beauty of me joining in this evening. I'm hoping that'll be the beauty of it anyway. So straight over to news, and the news comes from Angie, who is giving more details about the tribute to Ross, planned for 9th of September, I think it is. I might have to come back on that one a second. I'll be back. Apologies for that. I somehow or other deleted it off my menu bar at the bottom. But don't worry, on the edited version, that little time lapse won't be there. So here we go then. I'll try and it's on the screen share button, I feel, and let's hope it goes right this time.
Hello everyone, today I have an incredible announcement that will take you on a journey through Britain's history. I'm Zavi, and I'm thrilled to invite you to an unforgettable event. Get ready to be inspired as we delve into the untold stories that have shaped our nation. Our chosen venue is the captivating Bedwas Workman's Hall, a cherished gem nestled within the resplendent Caerphilly area. This historic theatre holds profound significance to us as it pays homage to my father's unwavering passion for its rich heritage. We have an extraordinary lineup of speakers including Marshall Abraham, Legolas and John Picture, and the acclaimed author Rob Shaw, known for his book Architecture of Power. Stay tuned as we announce even more incredible speakers. Prepare to be captivated as our esteemed speakers share their research and insights, paying tribute to my father, Ross Broadstock. Discover how his passion ignited their own love for Britain's history and get ready to embark on a journey of knowledge and discovery. Get ready for an enchanting experience with live music. Talented musicians will perform captivating songs that my father loved or even composed himself. Let the melodies transport you through time, connecting you to your heart of history and igniting your imagination. Engage with the brilliant authors who have brought history to life. Meet them in person during our special book signing event. Don't miss the opportunity to have your copy signed, including Rob Shaw's insightful book, Architectural Power, and Marshall Abraham's fascinating work, The Great Migration of Britain. We have made tremendous progress in uncovering forgotten tales and inspiring a deep love for British history. But our journey doesn't end here. We are eager to embark on further explorations and discoveries, and we need your participation. Together, let's make a lasting impact of preserving and celebrating our heritage. Mark your calendars for the 9th of September, a Saturday from 1:30pm to 8pm. Join us at Bedwas Workman's Hall. Tickets are priced at £18 per person and will soon be available online. Your ticket includes access to all presentations, live music, and a delightful buffet with hot drinks. Your support matters in celebrating my father's incredible legacy. Join us in person to experience this unique event. Purchase your tickets and attend the event and share our mission with others. Together, let's make a lasting impact and celebrate the richness of British history. Thank you for joining me today and being a part of this exciting journey into Britain's history. Remember to mark your calendars and get ready for an event filled with knowledge, music and celebration. See you on 9th of September at Bedwas Workman's Hall. Hedwch.
Well done, Javi. That was very professional, and the PowerPoint worked brilliantly too. So a great message there for the 9th of September. Get your tickets early. Hopefully we'll record some of the presentations. That would be good, wouldn't it? In the news, I managed to see something come up on my Bing feed talking about a Roman mausoleum unearthed in London. Let me see if I can read all about it. So the remains of a Roman mausoleum with an astonishing level of preservation, believed to be the most intact structure of its kind, has been discovered in London. The incredibly rare find has been excavated at the Liberty of Southwark development site, a stone's throw from Borough Market and London Bridge Station. The Museum of London Archaeology have revealed. The excavation of the tomb follows the discovery in February last year of some of the largest Roman mosaics found in London in more than 50 years on the same site. The find includes the walls and interior floors. At its centre is a striking mosaic surrounded by a raised platform on which the burials were placed. The lowest entrance steps also survive. The level of preservation of the interior makes this the most intact Roman mausoleum ever to be discovered in Britain, according to the Museum of London Archaeology, which led the investigations on behalf of Landsec and Transport for London, who own the site, and of course Southwark Council. There are plans for the future public display of the mausoleum, which underwent significant modifications. Second mosaic directly beneath the first indicates it was raised during its lifetime. The two mosaics are similar, with a central flower surrounded by concentric circles. Although the tomb was almost completely dismantled, probably during the medieval period, the signs are it was a substantial building, perhaps 2 stories high, and would have been used by wealthier Romans, possibly as a family tomb. Or it was possibly British, in the Roman style, which, if they open it up to the public, then some of our erstwhile investigators can go along and take a proper look. But let's have a look if I can show you some pictures of what accompany the articles on the news feed on my now hopefully that's coming up. I'll take a moment to catch up, but there's the mosaic floor. So I've got the iPad on so I can see. Oh, there's PowerPoint on. And just wait for it to change to a full picture. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't look as if it'll change to a full picture. Nevertheless, never mind, we'll just put that one on. So there's a lady working on the mosaic. Choose the mosaic. And as Bob Morgan said, there's no reason on earth why British artificers couldn't have done the mosaics. Why would the Romans need to bring over Roman people to do it? They could just train up locals, couldn't they? And if they then acquired the skill of doing these, then why wouldn't they just carry on doing them in the Roman style for the British? It's whether or not the British buried people in mausoleums at that time. So there we have it. Interesting to see. I think we're now ready for the main event for this evening. Just catch up on the chat. Yeah, people are laughing along with me. You can laugh along at me, I don't mind. Yes, that was beautifully Arnie. Good stuff. See you there. And Chris Wood has finally arrived on time. Just to find out exactly how bad I am at running these live shows. Now, I normally use a script, as you probably guessed. But I mess up my printer every now and again, and I've done so yet again. And it just takes me ages to work out how to release the backlog. Margaret keeps telling me what to do, and it just doesn't seem to work on this machine. But I'm going to need to take it into Chris Sweethouse down in Tonte at some point soon anyway. So I'll get him to sort that out as well. Right, over to this evening's main event then, which I selected. I think number 23 would have been in the next line, but that seemed to be only quarter of an hour long, and I don't know if there was a live show 23. I didn't find it in the YouTube channel playlists, but there was one in between 22 and 24, and that was Ross talking about how an album had taken years, 30 years I think it is, to get produced. That would have possibly been Tony Blackett playing. Some of the music that we're using seems to have come off that album, as that is mentioned at the end of this show, number 24. So here we go. I don't think you've got sound, have you? I don't know if, because I've put it on screen, I haven't altered the sound, but I can get over that one. I know I've done that one before, so we can get over that one. And then again, maybe we can't.
For those who didn't see the video, please have a look. You see the track.
No, I was right. I have done it before. It's as simple as putting the YouTube sound back on, isn't it? That's all you have to do. But you have to realise that. But appreciate the mistakes like this in the live show, because when the edit comes out, it'll be perfect.
Tragic story of what got into there. Right, everyone's saying hello. This is good. Right. Let's just bring that to a help. Thank you very much. Plus, I'll play one of the other tracks later to get everyone into it. Oh, great. We've got loads of people online. This is fantastic. So, yes, we're going to go through a bit of an overview. I'm going to try and do a little bit of summary what this is all about, really. There's a few reasons for doing that this week. It's been requested. We got a lot of new people. The audience has been growing. And for the first time, really, I suppose it's happened a couple of times in a couple of years, we had a bit of a Barney on the group. We wanted to get to the bottom of that and what we're about. And, right, so I'm on people from around the world. Paul Hart, delayed in the States by an hour. Yeah, our summertime's over. Yes, we've lost our summertime. I don't know when the summertime in America is. PST, is that Pacific Standard Time? Not so good in American times. First evening being able to join. Well, croeso, Eleanor, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming. Jordan Jones, hello, Brown Dar. Good to see everyone. Right, Heno. Okay, now then, I'm just going to let's have a look. What else we're going to go through? Yeah, the Robert Shaw's book is now. We've got to go to the printers. We're just tidying up the last couple of bits, and that'll be out in the next couple of days. So that's very exciting. So look out for that. And I'm going to read a little bit the introduction from that as part of what we're doing tonight. A little bit look at some hieroglyphics, and then a bit of fun from New Zealand. We get people all over the world. It's fantastic. Right, so right there, the chat board's busy. I'll be able to join. My hieroglyphics book arrived yesterday, so it's all happening for Eleanor. First live stream and got hieroglyphics book. Wow, it doesn't get much better than that. So hope you all hear me fine. I say sorry, it looks a bit rubbish. Right. Oh yeah, the first thing I want to do as well. Can you pass the board over, please, Arnie? That's the one. Thank you very much. So with this is not the finished one. This is a prototype. These are now being printed. The button has been pushed. The button has been pressed on Goith. Let's get it right. Goithbush. So this is just a mock-up. Just stuck this on ourselves, okay? There's going to be that will all be in silver. It'll be silver, embossed silver. And a full star map was way too complicated, okay? With all the stars on, all the writing, it just didn't look great. This has got a lot of style to it, a lot of mystery. And for those who know, there is a message there. If you think about it, what stars are being shown, and what the squiggle is, and why it's there. So I think the box will be rather elegant, and I haven't put Goith all over them. It's not just for games, you can use the box for other things. But the games everything's in process now. So we got the new pieces, just a quick update. So get these funky little bags for your pieces. And there'll be enough pieces in there to have a red set and a brown set. There'll be enough for you to play drafts with them as well. There'll be more than 12 of each. There'll be different levels you can come in at. And then the game, which I'm going to redo, this was the prototype for the board. Hopefully you can see that okay, which is going to be based on a random star thing. But as we've got the star map, we're going to use a proper star map, and it will tie in with the Babylonian stars. And I haven't got it uploaded, but to give you an idea, hopefully you can see this, it's going to be difficult to see, is this kind of thing. And I was going to put that on screen and talk about that a bit more, because Steve Willets, who you've been following his progress, has made absolutely fantastic progress with what's been going on. I know that a bit longer. And I just want to show you on here with the Babylonian star maps, being in South Wales. And I think he's cracked it. He's worked out exactly where the centre of the map is, where the different places are. and it's slightly different to what we have. Oh, thank you. Nice design. Comments coming in. Oh, I think you're in the lid of the box. And I think you'll find, make sure I get the right way up, is that, well, I can't say too much at the moment because we want to do a proper thing on it next week and really reveal it. But it could be there is more than one star map there. Star map might be exaggerating. There is one guide to the, what do you call it? It goes around the edge. The 12 signs of the zodiac. And then another one actually marking out the stars. Now, what I'm going to do a program next week as well is I've been looking at this Babylonian star map and reading up by the work of Gavin White, who I'd recommend if you haven't read it. The book should be right there, and I can't see it. Babylonian Star War, there it is. That's right. His name is White, but the book is black. That's what confused me. See, the book looks white from here, but black from the spine. And one of the things I've noticed on here, which has really got me thinking about a bigger theory, which is not really recorded history as such, but I know it's something a lot of people are interested in. And one of these days, I'm going to do my presentation on the big history of everything, okay? Which is, the theory could be, and it's a lot to give a few clues, that some people from Britain and Northern Europe started in Northern Europe, and then for reasons which we go into, went down to Iraq and the southern desert and all those kind of things. And then it was when the ice receded, we get to about 2000 BC, they started exploring again, building the first circles of stones and measuring and making sure everything was going to be fine, and then migrated back about 1600 BC. But this is not usually what we do in Britain's Hidden History, because that's more about recorded history and documents and things you can find and see. But I think there's a lot of evidence to support that. And the more I've looked into this, in my spare time, just reading some Babylonian star lore, and look at the maps, the symbols, and the way they've been interpreted, to me, it does seem as though the original star map was designed in a far more northern climate, and then transferred to Babylon, to the south. And Steve probably worked out where in Wales Babylon is as well, which is, so look out for next week, the big Babylonian one. We didn't want to go off half-cock, as it were. One of the things I've noticed is that what it would seem to present then is we've been trying to work out how on earth could you create the hills and mounds of Wales to copy, and even the rivers when you look into it, which gets very weird. Oh, everything right, colours changed. How do you do that to copy what happened in Iraq, in ancient Mesopotamia, sort of Assyria? Well, it could be the other way around. That's the way it's starting to look. So, it's a lot more interesting. It's a lot easier to build a mound in the middle of the desert. And if I'd like people to have a look before next week, to give me some feedback as well, is you'll find that there's a lot of archaeology in the deserts of southern Iraq, well, it was before when it blew it to pieces in those wars that we had. And they never find any evidence of life there. No money, no names, no evidence of any life. And there's some weird mainstream theories of why they're there. The main one being that it was a harkening back to their previous nomadic existence. So the ruling family would move around these points of the desert just because they used to live in a tent and it was a cool thing to do. Doesn't strike me as being very likely. What's more likely is it was a massive star map. And then I think you'll find you've infringed copyright. I wonder whose copyright that is. I don't know who Wellville is. So that's been very interesting. We're looking at this Babylonian star map and how that's going to be moved on there. Well, I've hand drawn this, so I don't know whose copyright might have infringed there. What have we got? The Origins of the Vedas, which I haven't read, don't know much about that one. Yeah, I have been doing a lot of look Ella, into New Zealand history. And I've been looking at that. And the thing which might not tie in with this, that all the accounts seem to be of even the more ancient people arriving there. I think the Maoris must have come 1200 AD, 1400 even. they haven't been there that long, and even the people before them would have been AD. So we're looking at a situation there where we're looking at BC by a long, long way. Okay, I know who this Wellville person is, but there we go. Right, so let's so I'm going to crack on with that. So what we do on next week's programme is looking at Britain's hidden history. So what are we looking at there is the... Right, what have we got here? Oh yeah, Baron Blackett's CD, the Goyle Booth. I'm glad everyone likes the new box too, that's great. And Robert Shaw, the book, yeah, which is Architects of Empire. Architecture of Empire, we talked about that before, and it goes through a lot of the stuff about the Great Fire of London, the plague, and all these things are all brought on. Alright, so, what have we got here? Oh yeah, right, okay, let's get back to a couple other things, and then we'll crack on with that. Hey, why can I not see on the bottom of my screen? Hang on a second. There should be an icon here. My children having a rare old time looking at the news in the other room. My presentation's gone. I just spent ages putting a presentation together. Where's it gone? It was there. It just disappeared. Unbelievable.
What's happened?
I don't know. It's just not there. It was on screen. Now it's not on screen. It's gone. Right. Okay. That's going to be interesting. All right. Well, I can do it another way. I know I can't because I need the photographs and everything. That is weird. It's just vanished off the screen. Right.
That's like the stream. That is like the stream.
That was the stream. Yes, the presentation I put together. Yeah. That is life. Okay. How are we going to get around that? All right. That's what we'll do. We're going to do... Oh no, right, so two things. First of all, I know what I'm going to do, I'll look for a, hang on a second. First of all, do you all know Richard Davis? You know the, who I call him? Pardon? I'm not on screen share. Go through my emails a minute, got to find the pictures. I just put all them all into a presentation. I don't know how that happened, it's like it's all turned off or something, and then everything's gone missing. Alright, we'll come back to that. It was a shame because I had some really funny photographs from the... Aha! I have one here. Alright, so just a little random thing. I'm just dropping this in, okay, just for fun. So here we are. This is going way back in the day. I say way back, 80s, 90s. This is the glamorous sort of South Wales. And I call it the archaeology scene. I don't think they were doing much archaeology yet. And I'm sorry to Andy. Andy Jinks has sent this all the way through from New Zealand back to his days in Cwmbran. And the person on the left show to look at with the great moustache and the big muscles, that's Richard Davis, the one who's been guiding us around Cwmbran. And so I hope Richard's watching this and find this quite funny. He's the one who took us around Cwmbran, also up to Lodge Hill. So he's been doing all that kind of stuff. So there he is in the younger days. And just, that's Mike, there's Sue, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the other person, I should know, and I just thought it'd be quite fun to see that there, because Richard's also done a full-on design of what's going to be, what he calls the Arthur Shield, which has shown before. Aha, I can use this. Alright, what it sent me through now is the finished artwork for this, okay? So we'll be doing that on into some various products Richard's done, and also I'm going to put a link up again for you can buy Richard's stuff as well. He's a great artist and he's presented that to us as a painting so we can use it for some of our things as well. So that's cracking stuff. Alright, so we're back on me, I believe, are we? Yeah, so we're really looking forward to doing the star maps and all that kind of thing. It's going to be fantastic. Just to go through there, what we've done is taken Alan Wilson's work and then taken it really to another stage. And we've looked at the case there where, as you've seen us the last few weeks of videos, how you've been seeing how using the Babylonian star maps is the key. And if you look at the research that Wilson and Blackett did, they could take it so far using the conventional stuff. You need the Wilson and Blackett maps. What's that one?
Suddenly just... pixelated, like, incredibly.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't
Maybe
about
it's
that.
just mine. Oh, it's gone back to normal.
Oh, it looks good on here now. The picture looks great. I don't know why it was pixelated on our earlier thing. So once you use the Babylonian maps, then it all starts to really reveal itself. Okay? So we'll come on to that. Can you get me some water, please?
Yeah.
Sorry,
it's
I'm
well
not your
done. He
headphones.
keeps saying he's going to him. He's saying, do you know who I am? And giving hints, and everyone wants to know now.
All right, right. I'm not the guy whose research has been broadcasting as well. I don't know who Wellville is. This research is Wilson Blackett's research, and it's been taken on by Steve and a few of us as well. Wellville, I think I know who you are now from this. It's not what you did, okay? I know you did something. Anyway, I want to get into that. He's done something which a while ago was showed to us, but doesn't want to. Whatever he wants to do with that, that's up to him. This is not the same as that. Right, okay, right. The main theme of this evening is to go through what is Britain's hidden history. And you have to put my face, the notes have disappeared. I don't know what happened here, okay? So what we're going to do is look at, we'll go through what this is all about. And hang on, I do have it on Word as well. I did have it on Word.
Water.
Thank you very much. Hang on. Here we go. Right. So I'm going to do, and I'll read this off a Word document, which is not as nice as we had. I'm not going to read it all off a Word document. Come on, Ross. Let's make this into, it's going to be a bit ugly on Word. I'll make it might be a bit easier for you. Right, one of the questions we've been having is, what's this Britain hidden history all about? And it's, some people think it's to do with some sort of nationalist campaign, it's Welsh nationalism, and it's Welsh against English. It's none of those things, okay? And I thought it's worth us having a little chat about this and seeing what people's thoughts are and the comments as well. This is, it's not a nationalistic movement. It's not a political movement. It's not a religious movement. It's not linked to anything, okay? The idea is that we're going to go back in and look at the old British records. What's it?
Just thinking, who was that dude who made the man cave in his garden? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's probably him, yes. So he should put his name on it if he wants to make anything.
Nah, well.
Anyway, so what I'm going to say, yes. So what we're looking at then is to go back through time, and this summary I've done, this is part of the introduction to Rob Shaw's book, the new book, Architecture of Empire. So if you just bear with looking at a bit of a Word document, not rather many pretty pictures, I'll just give a little, this gives an introduction to it. The point is that there's different perspectives on history. And the perspective that we've been given in schools and universities and taught and is given as history, full stop, is only one perspective. And it seems to be a lot of evidence that perspective has been created in more recent times. So I'll do this quick introduction first to go through here. Well, I'll say it quick, it's a few pages, so please bear with me. You can have a read of this. So Cumberoglyphics, the Britain's Hidden History Project. Britain's history has always suffered from being inconvenient to ruling powers, and as a result, has repeatedly paid the price of being suppressed, deleted, and new versions written in its place to hide it. I'm not going to read all this out, it's going to be quite hard work for people, but I'll leave it on screen so you can see it. The first time this really became an issue, everything seemed to be going fine until the history we're going to talk about is you've got the first migration back in around 1600 BC, which would be from ancient Assyria, from the Babylonians, and this we got from and that's we talk about the Albine migration. This is recorded in a lot of the old history books. Now, in the more mainstream version of history, this never happened, and the British or the Isles were occupied through a gradual process of assimilation and people drifting across from mainland Europe. So what's come in that version of history, the one you learn in school, all you'll see is a Stone Age man, Neolithic man, people living in caves, and this sort of barbaric world. And you also get told about the Celts who lived in this situation. Whereas you would find there's no reference to the British being Celts at all before around about 1700s, when someone called Edward Lloyd introduced the concept. the Celts are actually a tribe in southern France. Okay, so let's go. I will read a little bit more of this. So from the church's point of the second migration we talk about 500 BC is the Brutus migration, which is a migration coming across from Troy and bringing this great civilization with them and metalworking and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's great and glorious history. First of all, a great civilization from with Albine migration, and then with Brutus. And that's where you get, according to this version of history, that's when you get Albanactus, so you get Yr Alban for Scotland, which is still called Yr Alban in Welsh. You got Lucretius, whose Loegra becomes named after as in England. And then you've got, what's the other the one who gives the name to Cymru. His name's not Cymru. It's very similar. So that's you get Wales, Scotland, and England. So in Welsh, Yr Alban, Lloegr, and Cymru, okay? I have to hit these twos now, which is a bit weird, because that's how you control the camera. The next migration is the one then which comes after the crucifixion. And this is the book which will be coming out soon. And thank you to all those people who've been helping with the typing. The question then is, when the 500 BC migration took place, part of that migration was by... so you don't just look at that, do you? Part of that migration was the Hebrews, what they call the lost tribes. They also made part of this migration across to Great Britain, or England, or Lloegr, or Albine, or whatever you want to call the island at that point. So the contention is that those people came to South Wales, and that's where we look at the evidence to support that. The fact you've got the 12 tribes seem to match the 12 counties of Wales that they used to be, up until when it all got changed, I think in the 70s, when Glamorgan got split into Mid Glamorgan, South and Gwent, and Gwynedd, and all these other places, Clwyd. The old names, Pembroke, Meirionydd, Monmouth, all those disappeared. And we had the newer counties. Before that, there were 12, which would seem to match the 12 counties of Israel. Also before that, we have the thing we looked at before, the quartering of the country, where you have, just like in ancient Babylonian times, you've got the southeast, which is the heartland of the capital, the wealth creation, the bulk of the population. The southwest, which is then the area for the rural economy. So in Wales, you've got Cardiff and all that, and you've got Pembrokeshire and the farming, southwest Wales. The northwest is the land of mystery, so that's Gwynedd and Ynys Môn and all those sort of spiritual places. Then the northeast is Clwyd, where you've got the more military side of it, the army side. And a curious thing, if you look at Ireland, it matches, Scotland, it matches, England, it matches. In England, if you think about southwest is Cornwall, southeast London, northwest, up towards Lake District kind of thing, then northeast, where the Angleshaw and are fighting along there. You can apply this, and it's quite remarkable. So that's part of the sort of anecdotal or circumstantial evidence, if you like, to support this idea of migrations. So when we had the crucifixion situation, with whether Jesus died on the cross or not, or whether he was resurrected, the main thrust of it is what happened to the Christian the Christian Holy Family, if you like. And I see the comments as well. The Holy Family after crucifixion, where did they go? They were being persecuted by the Romans. They're being killed. Some of the early ones were being executed, and you had this difficult situation. Where would they go? Now, if you look at a map, which you would have done, you'd see the Mediterranean, and all around the Mediterranean is claimed to be Roman Empire, and the part which is still outside the Roman Empire at that time, of course, is Great Britain, or the islands then, or the Tin Islands, or whatever you want to call them, okay? And what I'm trying to do here is give two sides rather than promote one particular one, okay? So the contention is then, they escaped. So Mary, the mother, he seems to be married, so his wife, child, could be Barabbas, son of the master. They've all whizzed across to escape Roman persecution, and also it makes sense if their kindred people, the Hebrews, migrated there about 500 BC, then they would go there and be able to join them. So that all makes perfect sense. And that's when you get the situation where a history is claimed that if you look around South Wales, all these places are called Saint this, Saint that, Saint the other, and that's because they claim to have married into the Holy Family. And that's where you get your first bone of contention, because they're claim an ancient hereditary going back hundreds and hundreds of years, divine lineage that then marries into the family of Jesus himself. I see some comments here. Yep, there's places around the migration route around Armenia. Yeah, thank you, Alan. There's Gymru. Some people, like if you read E.O. Gordon's Prehistoric London, you'll see a mention there that Crimea is a corruption of the word Cymria. And then back into the Bible times, you've got a person called Omri, and it could be that the people of Omri cut Omri, it became Cymru. We're not going to go into all the details now. And so we're going to go to all that kind of thing. Yeah, and it's interesting we've got Arnie there next to me because he's doing history at school. And one of the things you find is Arnie's 12 now, is that they're starting to do some British history. And it just seems to magically start at 1066. It's quite remarkable. It starts with the Norman invasion. So all the stuff that went on before then, because from that period of the Christian migration, then there's all the fun stuff that a lot of people come into this group for. You've got the British kings, then you've got arrivals of Saxons and Angles and Jutes and Frisians, all these different people, the Scots. So the Scottish start moving and people moving to Ireland. Wilson and Blackett would say there was a comet which wiped out most of the island, left it wide open for people to immigrate into. And this is when you get the situation then of King Arthur and those great stories about, and this is well recorded history, it's in the charters, you can look up these family lines, these family trees. We actually got them on the website, you can buy one, and you can have a look at it. And what we're doing then is this is the history which would be to be discussed. Now what people want to go and do with that afterwards and claim all sorts of things that's a different thing, that's up to them, okay? That's not what this group is about. The objectives of this group is to raise an awareness that there is this history and it is well recorded and it was recognised, really well recognised and understood up until very recent times. So where it's been slowly removed, and then of course with mass media introduction, 1920s, 1930s, so we're talking that recently, last 100 years, that's when it was possible to completely change the school syllabus, remove a lot of these things. Also, a lot of the things that Rob Shaw talks about in his book, more recent times from 1700s, that was all removed, how the city was formed. A lot of this stuff just does not get taught now.
Griff's on.
Hello, Griff. King Omri wasn't king of the Cymry. The Cymrian identity is more like the Cambrians. Well, that's another view as well. I'm just pointing out the different options here, right, rather than trying to work out exactly one. Okay, so I will go a little bit back to... let's try and get it back to... Hang on, I'm going to have to do this. Alright, okay. The next problem we have here, as it says here, the church's point of view, obviously this idea of the... Is that coming up on? Of the Holy Family coming to Britain after the crucifixion, start the faith here rather than in Rome, causes them a lot of problems. And even more problems, as you'll see in the forthcoming book, Britain's Hidden Christianity. You can see that Jesus apparently was buried in Britain and where he was buried, which I think quite a few people in the group have already latched onto where that is. So when the Normans came, which is where a lot of the history books start these days, they very much then supposed to have beaten England. I think that's exaggerated. This idea there was one bloody day and it was all over definitely doesn't seem to be the case. Another thing which is not mentioned at all, it's mentioned in passing, is that at least a third, probably at half or so of William's army was Bretons. And Breton, as the name suggested, was Britons that had migrated to France. So this is a whole can of worms that needs really looking into. And I'd recommend people look up the Earl of Cornwall. In fact, just to break up this looking at text. Oh, hang on a second. I can't go that way. How can I go this way? I'm going to try and bring this on screen. Come on. All right, so let's come back to the second. Remember Earl of Cornwall. Earl of Cornwall. Very important. Hang on a second. Let's go back to me, and I can make this work a bit easier then. brothers are noisy tonight, aren't they?
Yeah, they're playing.
What are they playing?
With one of them sits there and the other one tries to jump out at them.
So one, because you wonder what the noise is, one is trying to scare the other one, so of course it's going to be noisy, isn't it? Alright, so hopefully you can now see that. So if you look on here, one that many people aren't very aware of, is Earl of Cornwall, 1068. The Earl of Cornwall was first created 1068. You can actually get a whole thing, which is Brian of Brittany. Alright, so just going to throw this in. As predicted, I'm now slightly deviating from the summary, okay? Now, he fought in the service of William I, okay? And what it doesn't seem to mention here, he's the son of Odo, who's quite famous. He joined the... Anyway, the idea of the story was that he was incredibly valuable during the battle, and as a reward, he was given Cornwall to be the Earl of. That was like his personal bit. What's fascinating, though, if you go back to CADW of Cornwall, right, there we are, it's there, I knew it was there somewhere. You can go back, when this person came over, when he was claiming, he wasn't just claiming it's a random piece of land, he was claiming he was moving back to the land that his ancestors had actually run and been the rulers of since very early times. So he's the Cornish royal line, as he called himself. So if you go to William of Worcester, right in the 15th century, a few hundred years later, but it's not the biggest gap ever, you'll find there that it links all the way back to CADW, and they've changed. This has changed. This isn't the usual. This isn't how the page used to look even a few weeks ago. So someone's updated this or changed it or something. So CADW himself was a descendant of King Donyat. Oh, who's this? There we go. I've got the ancient stones and all this kind of thing. So you see that old ancient British history coming into it. So this is definitely something. That's the sort of thing when you talk about hidden. Is why don't we talk more about the Bretons? It was a Norman and Breton invasion, and how much of the country of England became back to beyond, and by the time of the Tudors, almost depopulated. But that's another question. What we're looking at here, so with Wales, if we get back to this, let's get that to the top of the page. Sorry about all the text. So when the Normans conquered England with the sword, Battle of Hastings, all that stuff, their approach to winning over Wales was very different. Here, they married into the old royal families. And if the fighting was too difficult, or this was just an easier way to do it, it gave them legitimacy. In 1091, there was some fighting. Obviously, there was a betrayal, because at the time, the British kings were fighting each other, and the Normans were renting themselves out as kind of mercenaries. And after one particular battle it's like civil war, if you like, in Wales, the Normans had supposedly sailed away, and then, unexpected by the Welsh, they came back in the night and stormed into Cardiff Castle. So the veil was lost, but for hundreds of years, the fighting continued between the Welsh and the Normans. Okay, so getting back to the main theme here. So if you go back through the history, you see they tried to marry into the royal bloodlines, and it also appropriated a lot of the history, such as you'll see here, they wanted to get the treasures of Britain. King Arthur became a Norman story in their chansons, their songs. And when Henry VII made his charge, and this is what we were talking about earlier, when Henry VII made his push to be King of England, and it's England, note the name, he rallied support from Welsh soldiers by claiming that he was the Red Dragon, and he flew the Red Dragon like the modern Welsh flag, quite similar. And he was going to take on the White Dragon in Richard III, because his emblem, if you remember, was a white boar, and a boar and a dragon are the same in terms of heraldry. I don't know how much of those two you can hear, honestly. It's slightly distracting. I guess your teachers feel like... Sorry, so I can't see the comments, unfortunately. Hang on, no, I can't. You know, look, Andy, there's much else coming up on there. And there's... okay, so what happened then was that's how he made his claim. And his links to the throne... Well, we'll come on to it from here. So the struggle to the islands continued through the centuries, and as different rulers took their turns landing the throne, the language and records of Britain were destroyed where possible, and marginalised or overwritten where that wasn't possible. Now, this is what happened, okay? Now, whether or not there's some academics say, the Welsh records are a load of rubbish, the British records were a load of rubbish. They were destroyed. There's one person called Scholasticus who was very proud of how much he destroyed. And what seems to have happened, that through the Middle Ages, as quite often happened, one of the Welsh rulers or lords would be in trouble, and he would have to go to the Tower of London. He could be there for years. And to help him while away this time, he was allowed to bring his books and his library with him. So at some point, Tower of London was rapidly becoming the best store of British history knowledge there was. And so this particularly pious, I think he was a monk, he was some sort of religious person, abbot or something, decided the best thing to do was to burn the lot. And he destroyed tons and tons and tons. But there is still some evidence still available. Now, the Welsh language became admissible in courts. If you wanted a job, you wanted to be a judge or something, you had to speak English. So if you didn't speak English, you couldn't do any of those things. And you didn't know what was happening in the courts either. When Caxton brought in printing in the 1470s, almost immediately it was illegal to print anything in the Welsh language. And when that was finally overturned a couple of hundred years later, it was to print Bibles. So there's this massive gap where nothing was printed. And this is what's used as an excuse to say then that there was no British history, there was no Welsh history, okay? Anyway, whatever was tried, there was no legitimate way to bring Britain, and don't forget, that's not the same as England, to bring Britain under rule of London. So the first thing the Tudor dynasty did was try to unite, as everyone knows, Lancaster and York, the two houses. So when he brought these together, Henry, his whole idea of recruiting Welsh people was based on a claim through the fact that he was a descendant of the union of King John, brother of the famous Richard the Lionheart, and Llewellyn's daughter Eleanor. So what had to happen then was that this North Walian link to Gwynedd had to be inflated, because, let's just jump in ahead there. So once again, the Royal Records and History of South Wales was again the stone in the shoe that needed dealing with. And his solution was to inflate the importance of Gwynedd and just pretend that the British royal family based in South Wales and its claims to holy descent and rulership of Britain never existed. Now Wales, the whole of Wales, rather than just Gwynedd, was eventually annexed into England by Henry VIII in what is still considered by many to be an act without any legal basis, and has led to simmering resentment ever since. And this is one of the things that boiled over a bit in the Britain's Hidden History group, because this historical point about how Wales was annexed, some people wanted to discuss that more in the group. It's a bit more recent than we normally discuss. But other people saw this as a nationalistic argument because they're looking at the legal side of it, whether or not Wales should be legally part of England. Now, discussing history and campaigning for something, and they can take this and use it for political ideas or to push nationalism or to whatever. That's not what Britain's Hidden History is about, okay? It's about looking into the history and seeing what we can find, see what we're not being shown, and then trying to work out from there, is it legitimate, is it worth reading? What doesn't seem right is the current situation or changed, and then you've got another version of history which has been completely made a taboo subject, and you're some kind of nutter, or as happened this week, someone just for raising some of these issues was called some sort of Welsh nationalist or something. Okay, so, oh, hang on, this keeps jumping around, this document, that doesn't help, does it? Okay, so we have this is when the annexation took place of Wales. So you had, oh my goodness, I've got to think of dates now, not the best of dates, I think it's 1470s, the Battle of Bosworth, and then just under 100 years later, the son, King Henry VIII, did a full annexation. After they took the 5 counties first, then they took the whole lot. Okay, so of course this Tudor dynasty was followed by the Stuarts, and then you got a lot of the stuff covered by Robert in his amazing book Architecture of Power, which shows that we had, on the one hand, you had the unicorns, which was the Stuarts. So he saw himself as a divine ruler and wanted to show his genealogy stretched back to the earliest times. And for at least for a short time, it was in their interest to then revive some of this British history rapidly. Miss out the bit that mentions South Wales being the centre of it all. Make it Gwynedd, and then put all the history back in, please, because I want to show that by my ancestral roots to Gwynedd, which is the claim, by the way, for the Scottish kings. So the Scottish claim and the English claim and all the marbles. So you need to inflate that. So you've got books such as Percy Enderby's. You can get this from Kean Books. We've got Cambrian Triumphants. Lots of books produced in that period. So very interesting. And I know just don't get any attention at all. These books don't seem to be in libraries available through the Welsh Library. Just something you can't get hold of. Right?
I don't know. There's a lot of talk about Benny Babbles having 10 views and stuff.
Oh, Benny Babbles?
I don't know what's going on.
Right. I don't know why we're talking about Benny. Benny, if he's Benny there, hello Benny, you're great. And I'm going to watch more of your show and I'll plug it and put a link up again. It's good stuff. It does take a while to build a channel, so give him some support and some love, okay? Right, so with the Civil War, another little thing just to throw in here, Oliver Williams, who is known historically as Oliver Cromwell. Now, according to, I haven't done the full research on this, but according to the writing of Wilson and Blackett, he did actually have ancestors and a claim to the throne. He had a better claim than the Stuarts did. So, make of that what you will. You certainly won't find it in the history books. So then you had this whole situation, which you need to read Robert's new book, which will be out very soon now. We're taking orders this week. It'll be on pre-order this week, all right? So I'll put a video up. Look out for that. This week's on pre-order. If the new lockdown restrictions don't screw up everything, it's already organised with the printers, and it should have the proof the week after, and then it'll be out the week after that. Who knows the current state of the world, hey? Who can tell what's going to happen? So we have the rising lion of a city directly challenged the unicorn for absolute power. This wasn't messing about. This was plagues and fires and cutting off of kings' heads. And one thing I'd like you to notice, a symbolic thing, which, hang on a second, let's see if I can put this on screen as well. I'm trying my best here to rebuild some of the presentation. But if you look at, hang on a second, the Royal Standard Art, Royal British. Oh, you just watch me type, I suppose. It's more fun than watching nothing, isn't it? British coat of arms. You will notice the Royal Coat of Arms. There we go, Royal Coat of Arms, United Kingdom, whatever you want to call it now. Come on, nice and big, please. Pick up a bit. How many people have noticed that? Isn't this great? The unicorn's wearing chains. And the lion now has the crown. So this is them in the drawing that I've done for the cover of the book, which you'll see. I think you've seen the artwork before. I'll put it up again sometime. These two are fighting it out. I was going to put loads of blood everywhere and bits coming off them. What do you think of the bloody versions, Arnie? Where I had the lion and a bit too much. Overdid it. I quite liked it.
It made the whole thing look messy.
It did look messy, yeah, but it was quite visceral, with the lion had his eye bleeding and all that kind of stuff, big scars on him. And anyway, the final picture is a lot more tamed down. And you see there the lion, or the leopard as some people call it, not always thus. These used to be the kings, but as you can see, they're now in chains. And if you look before then, there was no chain. Slight detour anyway. So I think all that would be a bit of a shock to people if they taught that in schools. So what happened then? So Scotland was brought into the Union, and that was a con with the bankers. If you want to look into how that was done, absolute scandal. The way the debt was shifted, and you had a situation where you had certain lowland bankers wanting to be part of the Union, and they were more or less bribed into it. And it was a banking setup. It was to make the financial systems work. It was nothing to do with the vast majority of people in Scotland, or England for that matter. And the Union was just as illegal as the annexation of Wales was. So I'm not a nationalist or promoting Scottish independence or Welsh independence. I'm just telling you what happened on the historical context, all right? So what you then had in Ireland, well, that was getting brutal, wasn't it? You had Cromwell being over there. The English were following it up. The Battle of the Boyne, if it ever happened, that's a bizarre one. That's definitely not for today, that's for another one. But if you get a chance, have a look into that. Did the Battle of the Boyne ever actually take place? But that's a weird one. But that's when the Stuarts were really kicked out. James a Colcha. I can't say that on a Sunday evening in English. That's Gaelic. Look up the word a Colcha, and you'll see what the Irish think of him. So that was being colonised. So this really was the birth of the empire. They called it a Commonwealth in those days. Another thing that's interesting, it's only very recently that it's been called the British Empire. That's a fairly new idea. It was always either the Commonwealth or the English Empire. So again, this identity is kind of, this is why I use the word hidden. And I want to mention someone someone who's not very happy about the group and what we do, and he sends me a lot of emails. And so hello, Mark, I won't give you a full name. And he says it's neglected history. He prefers the term neglected history rather than hidden. And there's loads of, my answer would be there's loads of neglected history. He thought a lot about his comments. He has some interesting things to say. But neglected history is, for example, in World War One, we don't talk much about the amount of fighting that went on. Everyone says 1914 to 1918. I got my poppy on today. They don't mention the fact that the fighting went on for years more, and the retaking of Jerusalem and all the fighting against the Turks and the deals done with the Arabs and all that kind of stuff. That's neglected history. It's not hidden. You can find it. It's all there. It's accepted. This doesn't get talked about. Or a similar thing in World War II, where you had what they called the Forgotten Army, where out in the Far East, you had those soldiers fighting over there in Singapore and Malaya and all those kind of places. They're just not mentioned much. That's neglected. And at the moment, there's a big campaign to push some of the female figures through history who've not had as much attention as they feel they should have done. They're neglected. The difference here is it's been actually hidden. It's not just been neglected. There's the history we're talking about, and another history has been deliberately placed over it, and the names and terms changed to make sure that people can't find it. And that's where it's hidden comes into it. So, for example, here, the English Empire became the British Empire. The old names for everything changed and got switched around. Anyway, we'll read on. Anyway, so, sorry, the aftermath was the lion beat the unicorn. And they had a free hand then to just write the history wherever suited them. And if you look through the history books, you'll find it's a marked change from about 1710, 1714, around about that era. You got Edward Lupted. People like Shakespeare wrote about it, and Bacon, and it was in all the textbooks. All these connections with Troy, the fact that London used to be called New Troy, and there's all these places called Troy around southeast England in particular. The Brutus, and he just, as much as possible, either obliterated or rewritten or twisted, and that's where we get the term hidden coming in. How are we doing there?
Oh, there's this dude who keeps saying everyone thinks of dog beep, and he's just swearing all the time, so I
really?
timed him out.
Oh, you got rid of him? Oh, thank you, Arnie. Timed him out, whatever you do, right?
He keeps going on.
Yeah, there's a way to block people if someone's been swearing. Yeah, please don't do that. It's a family programme. I don't know why people come on and do it. So what happened? All right, we're almost at the end of this, okay? So the well-recorded history of the British being a great civilization and the migrations we talked about was then dismissed as myths and legends. The Welsh, and this is the crucial bit here, which is very controversial, the Welsh, Scots and Irish would be redefined as primitive Celts, with their history reduced to a footnote to the massively inflated ideas of a Roman Britain. This gets, I would say, more controversy and aggressive comments and stuff than everything else put together. When you start telling Irish people and Scottish people and Welsh people they are not Celts, this was an invented idea. And people just can't believe it. They cannot believe it. And you say, okay, find a reference to the British, any of those people there being called Celtic before 1700, you will not find one. The Celts were in south of France, nothing to do with Britain, okay? The term was introduced as a way of removing the different and proud histories and replacing with something else. This is why it's hidden. It's not neglected, it's had something else put on top, it's hidden. So as we're finding with in school, 1066 and all that became the new starting point for history, especially in schools. And any gaps and holes between where you couldn't fill it in, you know, like, all right, if we do go with the Romans leaving in 400,
But it had to
Is the sound back on? When did the sound go?
I don't know. I'll go back a bit and check.
Can people just tell me on the comments how far back the sound went?
Can't be too long, because I left like 1 minute.
How can the red light still be on if it's not plugged in? And it can only be the last couple of minutes anyway. So I'll just do a slight recap and hopefully we're okay. We've got a new cable, same old mic. Alright, any comments? Say we're okay now? Can you hear me, Anne?
No, I'm just...
Can you hear me?
Let me just go back to full live. Yes, I'm going back to full.
Oh, okay, sorry about that, folks. I must accidentally tug this out of there somehow. Don't know what I'm going to do about this. Right, okay, so just very quick recap, the last bit, which you already heard. So the Scottish, the Irish, the Welsh are convinced that they are just a term was invented called British barbarism. They're just these barbaric Celtic tribes. They ran around half naked, you know, heroically throwing themselves at armies of amazing Romans who were there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And everything that was built before a certain time was obviously Roman, because these stupid people were incapable of. Whereas if you accept or acknowledge the ancient history of things like Troy, where there's massive walls and castles being built hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before, and actually predates the Roman civilization, nothing works. It doesn't fit anymore. So you have to get rid of the Trojan War. It's crucial. This is why Wilson and Blackett's book, Trojan War 650 BC, it's so important. Because that, once you put that into the correct time slot and you show it existed, then the migrations all make sense. This is why you think, why are British historians so upset about moving the date of the Trojan War? Why would they care? Why? That's also hidden away. Here's to you, Dick, so you got my moonshine jars out, okay? Okay, so the English had to be convinced as well, obviously, because that's the bulk of the population. Now, most, 70% or so of English, at least, are not Germanic stock. And if you go back through history, you've got Somerset probably being Sumerians, you've got the old Sicinius becoming Surrey, so you've got Syrians, you've got Belgian tribes coming in the southeast, you've got various people coming in from mainland Europe. It surprises people when you find out the research Wilson and Blackett shows they're the Vandals. So after they come ramping down Italy, over to North Africa, and they've eventually been kicked out by the Byzantines, they've skedaddled and they come across, and that's when you get the Turkus, you right? Yeah. The boar hunt, which is King Arthur fighting against the Mercians. Everything all right again, is it?
Yeah, the dude just said, history F, yeah.
Great, okay, so the English had to be convinced into this story, and they said, because they're these new German kings and stuff, so they had to be convinced who they were. So this story of an Anglo-Saxon heroic conquest, and this idea was created that the people were driven in front of them. And you've all seen the maps as you look in there. There's Britain, there's Wales sticking out on the side, and this invasion pushes like a kind of massive tsunami sea wave, pushing all the people, driving them like cattle. Invasions don't work like that. They never have. You look at more recent times, look at, say, when he became German, what happened was there was a change of government. And in the Second World War, most of France was run by sort of what's called a Vichy government, or a new regime, under German supervision, if you like. And that's probably very similar to what happened in most of Britain. There might have been an overlord or a foreign power pushing things a bit, but you still got local rulers with local populations and local people. You can't drive people like sheep, especially when the length of Britain, 600-700 miles. It's just ridiculous and impossible. And as we go on to the comet and things, which is, I'd rather keep that from this presentation. But the English were convinced, would sold this story, that they were the Anglo-Saxons coming in to drive out these primitive barbarian Celts, whatever you want to call them, okay? And the idea here was there was a lot of enormous sentiment for revolution. People are really looking there to, if you look what happened in that century, they were very prescient, actually, the people who put this together, because there was going to be a lot of problems, because by some accounts, the Georges, or the Hanoverians, they weren't even in the top 50 in line for the throne. They had no real claim. They couldn't even speak English. George I, George II hardly even came to England and didn't learn the language, their language. And they were brought in because it was ideal for the city to have someone like that who could just they couldn't even speak the language. They didn't know what's going on, you know. Put them in a big palace, give them loads of money, tell them everything's cool, and they'll go with it. They were reluctant. They didn't even want to be the kings. And then more recently, of course, you had the Saxe-Coburg Goethers, which is leads us up to the current royal family, who've rebranded themselves as the Windsors. Now, the idea of this story, not only did it have to be sold in, hang on, let's just put this back on there. They did this so well, so successful, as let's read this, was the promotion of the new history and erasing of the old, that the vast majority of the population, that's now, we're talking now, okay, the current population, they don't just accept this new narrative, they love it. Welsh people love being Celts, and so do the Irish. I'm not quite sure with the Scottish. I think they like being Scottish, but I think they go with the Celtic thing. And when you even just broach the idea that the Celtii were actually a tribe in southern France, and this is just a load of nonsense. You know, the Scots, the Scotii come over from Ireland, and before them were British in Scotland, and there's Picts, and, you know, explain this kind of part of the history. And now the British names are still in Scotland, and the Irish difficulties with Irish history you have, and same with Welsh, they get upset about it. You know, it's the Celtic tiger, and you notice on a lot of the programming, it's rammed down people's throats, this idea of this. So even you got the vast majority of people living in England have no connection with the Germanic Anglo-Saxons. I mean, what's an Anglo-Saxon anyway? It's like saying a French-Italian. You know, it doesn't make any sense. There's loads of people, Jutes, Frisians, Angles, Saxons, and, like I said, all these other people as well, right? The problem they had, and this is why King Arthur is so important. King Arthur, it was such a massive figure for whatever reasons. His fame was all around the world. His story was taken by the Normans, for example, and put back into their history. And you got people like Tennyson and that making it into English knights, became an English character. There's some people that say he's Hungarian. He comes from the steppes. This Italian, Roman soldiers, all sorts of stuff. Okay, because you can't get rid of the character. So I will stay on here actually, so you can see. So the one fly in the ointment was King Arthur. So no matter how the name has been lampooned, Disneyfied, you know, made into a cartoon character, transplanted round the world and dismissed as a legend, the historical King Arthur could not be made to go away. And this is what drew Wilson and Blackett into this. And when they started going through the records, they then had it confirmed to them there was this whole massive information which has been hidden from the likes of you and me. You won't find this in the library. You can't go and ask a history professor much about it or anything. The book's very difficult to get hold of. And as I say here, they were just in time to reopen the doors, and this is really important, the whole thing is coming to an end now. Reopen the doors of British history just before they were slammed shut forever.
Oh crap, I just lost all the connection to the internet.
You lost your internet, okay. As long as I'm still on. I hope this hasn't crashed. Arnie's has crashed. But there we are, I haven't. It's only by a fluke, really. The fact that Alan Wilson was so old. Just check in. Yeah, no, I think I'm right. And he'd been in school and knew some of this stuff still, because he's been educated back in, 30s and stuff, and Second World War I, 30s and 40s. And that fluke, that absolute fluke took place, whereby the young men, the young teachers, were off fighting or involved in some sort of thing to do with the armed services and the fighting World War II. And they had to bring old teachers back into the schools, otherwise they have no teachers at all. And this, by the fingernails, this fact that these young boys and girls were being taught by teachers in their 70s and 80s who didn't give a monkeys about the new syllabus or exams or anything like that. They were teaching people how to think, how to learn, and they were teaching them the history that used to be taught. And then, fortunately, you got the likes of Alan Wilson particularly, and Barron's been part of this team, but Alan particularly has been a real genius And even though he's very young when he first started learning all this kind of thing, he held it in his mind. And when he got older and had the chance to revisit it, he had the brain and the ability to dig out all this information and produce, 9 books? And we got another 3 on the stocks coming out soon, which I'm now helping with as he gets older. So it was that close to going. And it's a fluke, really, because it was also the fact that, as I'm sure you know, he was a refugee. He was evacuated. Refugee's the wrong word. He wasn't a refugee. He was evacuated from Cardiff, which is getting quite heavily bombed in World War II. Another thing which doesn't get much mention. Everyone talks about the London Blitz. Cardiff and Swansea, the metal centres and industrial centres and harbours, they got a good bombing as well. So the children was moved out to West Wales, where he encountered then the Welsh language, the Welsh history, the whole thing about Cwm Dewi and Jesus and all that stuff was brought into his mind. He's got the brain which has held it all this time, and we're producing it. And the more you look into the research and the records, it stands up. So it was that close. I would really say if Wilson and Blackett hadn't come along, all this would have been gone forever. And they've had such a tough time, such a difficult life, trying to promote all this, that it was almost going to... I think a lot of people were just hoping that they would just get on with dying, and this could all die with them. And that's where we come in. That's where you come in. That's where I come in. This is where we have to just keep this going now, all right? And make it so that... and I'll almost say, even wherever your views on the history are, at least people have the right to be aware that this alternative account, if you like, or this authentic account of British history is there. It does exist. The books exist. The documents exist. The charters of the old cathedrals, the stones with the names on, these things are there. And we need to make sure that they stay available, and then people can see for themselves and make their own judgment. So as I say, they were just in time, that's Wilson and Blackett, and managed to reopen the doors of British history just before they were slammed shut forever. And people would go down the Orwellian route of forgetting that there even was a history that was being hidden. So keeping this door open and rediscovering the authentic history that was generally accepted, and this was still taught in Welsh schools. So I said there, 1920s. In some ways, as I've just explained, it was taught in the 1940s. That's what the project's all about, all right? Keeping the doors open on that. That's the struggle, that's the battle. It's nothing to do with political gains or proving a point, or even saying if this history is right, wrong, or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of evidence. It's the fact that this evidence deserves to be placed on the same level as any other country's evidence, and probed and discussed and disputed. So Robert Shaw's opened this other book, another door, and as I say here, you are now invited to step through this door and see more of what the rulers would prefer stays hidden, and draw your own conclusions as to why they might want to keep these things hidden. So that's what we're talking about, okay? Whew. So, we've still got a few people online still. No, everyone's still there. It's very good. Oh, wow, there's a proper... Okay, seems like there's a lot going on over there. Am I a 50-year-old living in a 12-year-old's body? All right. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, we got through it all in the end. I get lost on the timeline of this history. It says British freedom. I'm not quite sure how that works. So you've got the very quick outline. So you got 1600 BC is the Albine migration. 500 BC, Brutus migration. Obviously 0, or just after 37 AD, Jesus and the Holy Family migration. And that's the timeline then. From there you can follow the family charts and everything. And then the last King of Glamorgan, Iestyn, was murdered by the arrangement of Edward I in 1091. So up until then, really. All right, so hope everyone enjoyed that. Apart from Welville, who's still moaning on. This is Alan Wilson's work.
An argument with him.
Oh, don't have an argument with him, Arnie. It's not worth it.
No, it's quite fun.
All right, okay, as long as you're not upsetting you or anything.
No, it's quite fun.
The thing with this is that people find lots of stuff and then say that's it, it's theirs and no one can see it. This is another example of trying to hide British history. It's got to be out there. Alan Wilson's given us all the information that's available. And, oh yeah, the last thing I meant to mention, which is difficult to show from here, is that Rob Shaw is a teacher, so there you go.
Don't worry. I think I know who that is. It's one of those people that come along. So, right. Is that there's this... One of the tricky things you have to do with the star maps is to overlay them onto normal maps. And then you can do your own experiments. See if you can make the stars match. This is all in Alan Wilson's book. If you want to go back to Ark of the Covenant, he talks about all of this. So it's old news. This has been published 20 years ago originally, I think. And it's mentioned in the earlier books as well. So ideas like that, you can't copyright anyway. If you want to go along and discover something... And what I'm doing is... Excuse me, can you stop the language, please, here? Oh, dear. There are Arnie. Arnie's not too squeamish. He thinks it's hilarious. Look, there we go. So... Oh, good grief. Right, so we have to disable comments. Please, boys, can we just... Alright, there's a couple of these people are going to have to... Right, okay. Alright, well, if you can block that Luca character for a start, okay? Alright, so we're just coming towards the end now. What I was going to say is I'm going to make a... when I was designing the lid, just remind you, Goithbush will be available, and the box set will include all the pieces and the rules for the Finchell, the Irish game, and there'll be a board in there if you want to add an extra board for drafts, chess, and oh yeah, the what's called the Viking game, the Tavel games and the Viking word. It reminds me of when you see how they try to do some of the translating the hieroglyphs. It's like I don't know what it is. It's some bizarre word. I think it's wise beyond his years, Arnie. Oh, don't get him on Waterloo. Don't get him on Battle of Waterloo, for goodness sake. Arnie's an expert on Waterloo. So, yeah, so if you remember the designs I did where I drew the whole map, all the stars marked on, without any clutter of time dials and names and constellations, just the stars, I'll be making that free as a free download, okay? I was hoping to have it done in time for the show, didn't yet. You can have your own, and I'll send you a PNG file if you want one. If you contact me, a PNG, ping file for short, because what that lets you do then is to have a clear one. So you can use a clear one to overlay on maps of South Wales and stuff and see if you can make the star maps work, see what you come up with. Okay, so there we go. I tried to think what's been going on. Message deleted. Oh my goodness. Why do people feel the need to do that? There we go. Oh my goodness. Wow. Alright, so everything's fine. And hope everyone enjoyed the show. Well, that was dramatic, wasn't it? Right, I'm just going to... well, the camera's on me. Right, I'm going to do a thing. Let's everyone know, I'm going to say one last thing about... Before we finish, as people are enjoying the chat so much. A bit rambunctious. You know the word I'm looking for. There we go, great. Unfortunately, you do have to put up a bit of stick when you do this kind of history. And it's surprising people out there who want to try and stop things. Do you have a different track? Which track should we have? We've got... pick an MC 1 and 11, go on.
1 and 11,
yep.
Randomly 8.
8. Undergoing frustration.
Is that a good one?
They're all good, Arnie. They're all good. So we'll start plugging these tracks. Don't forget, this album is available, alright? It's available, please. Sales are going quite well this week. And it's a one-off thing. When these are gone, they are gone forever, alright? So they will be collector's pieces. And they really make a big difference to Parham, I know that. If you could actually have some sales there. Oh, I can see, this is weird. I can see the body at the door. Alright, okay, hang on a second then. Make sure your dressing gowns on properly, boys. Oh, I'm being in vain now. It's bedtime watch. What time is it? 9:15, yeah. School tomorrow. Back to school tomorrow. Yeah, a transparent star map. You got it, Monica, that's it. Thank you, Craig. Yeah, I just want to say as well, talking to Craig up in the valleys there, but MC for ages, Craig Walters. He's the one who got a lot of this going, he's been doing it for years, the Lionstone, all that kind of thing. And tell Benny to tune in next week. Where's Benny then? Is Benny not here? He's usually here every week. Right, okay, thanks everybody. Yeah, man, that was quite tough actually. The whole presentation was gone.
You were twins.
No, not at all, yes. So here's the other two. Alright, Heather, Deal, North Star, everyone. I'm sure there's other things on there which I left off, and if I made any mistakes, I do apologise in advance because it was kind of. Hey, come on! I can't move my arms. You. All right, thank you for saving our history. Yeah, well, Wilson and Blackett, the ones to thank. It's brilliant.
The best colour, that one.
Yes, thank you very much. Christmas will arrive soon. Oh, thank you, Harley. Christmas already arrived in our house, all right? There's no one's cancelling our Christmas, okay? Loyal supporter Fev from Massachusetts. Thank you, Leon. Excellent. North Star Arnie. Thank you, Patricia. Zavi and Leon Rock. That's Uncle Rob there, look. Great show, good summary. I hope so. Why is there something on my head? Oh, it's a hat. It's not. Is this? Oh yeah, man. Covers have come off. No, I'm not scrounging for a new hat. All right. I've had 2 new hats since this one. I don't like them. So if anyone knows anywhere I can get a hat, it's got to be natural leather. This is a genuine Australian kangaroo skin hat, made in Pakistan. All right. Alan Wilson says I should have a trademark. I should wear my hat or something. I was like, a gentleman does not wear a hat indoors, so there we go. I don't do that. So, happy Halloween for yesterday, All Saints Day today, isn't it? So, happy All Saints Day. Right up, and I have one more track, I think.
All Saints Day.
All Saints Day. You have All Halloween and then All Saints Day, then, isn't it? Oh, we didn't do our ducking apples and stuff yet. Let's do Sly Eyes. I like that one. I like the music anyway. Right, we're good watchers. People starting to leave now. Okay, thank you very much, North Star.
You still have your slide thing. Your slide thing.
My slide thing.
Yeah, the card.
You lost me.
Your card. The card. Says
Oh, I can put that on, you mean? Ah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Now, hopefully I'll get a couple more videos up during the week. And, yeah, about the launch of Architecture of Empire, which will be fantastic. How to download your free star map. The Goithboil is coming out. All this cool stuff's happening, alright? Oh, no. Whoa. One more thing I almost forgot. I almost forgot. Mummy baked a special bread tonight. Has it cooled down? Should have done. Right, hang on, I can't actually see myself a minute. Yeah, I know, I want to see myself. Quite fuzzy, eh? Look at this! Right.
baked.
Now, this is the idea of this here, by the way, is, you know, if we do the... Oh, I did do the hieroglyphics tonight. Oh, man, that was on the presentation. I couldn't do it without the pictures. You can't read something in hieroglyphs. Anyway, it's the Pyramidion of Amenhotep we're going to do, which is more exciting and more fun than it might sound. But anyway, the idea of this was, wife cooks bread now, without using a tin or anything. That's handy. And sometimes it goes really high like that. And it looks just like the Titian lap symbol in the hieroglyphics, okay? The tea, you know, we're talking about the Welsh oven cakes and stuff. We'll do those one of these weeks. What Angie's done is rather clever. Have a look at this. See if you can see this on the camera. Hang on, crumbs are going to go everywhere. Bit of flour off the top there. Throwing that on my computer. How about that? How cool is that? Yeah, it's got really well in the picture. Benny is there. Oh, good. How about that? How cool is that? So that's the for those who follow the hieroglyphs at all, the top one's a mouth, which is roch to pronounce, and below is sikrai, which is the fastening bolt. You see the 2 bolts fastened. So you got roch sikrai to pronounce with certainty. And if you say the first bits to make a name, you get Rossi. So that's my little logo there, and the one you see on all the books and everything. Yeah, how clever is that? Can't really make those available and send them through the post. Oh yeah, and thank you for the Patreon supporters. More supporters signed up this week. Much appreciated. For less than the price of a pint a month, it will really make a difference. As I always say, we don't want some people paying more, we want more people paying some, just to keep this whole thing going. It is, for some bizarre reason I really don't understand, it seems to be the nation's history has ended up in our hands, folks. It's come down to that. And it was that close to disappearing, and it can be that close to disappearing again. Right, okay, I really have got to say goodbye now. What are you playing mouse for?
I'm pointing at something.
What are you you pointing at? Lollipop?
Yeah, the flower.
The poppy, you mean? Oh, poppy. You're a real poppy in the garden, but you don't give any. Anyway, so remember it's Sunday.
You've made it look worse in the camera.
Yeah, I know I have. Everything's backwards, isn't it? Everything. All right, okay. Everything's starting to buffer and fall apart, including me. So I shall definitely will say goodbye this time. If I didn't mention that bread, my life wouldn't be worth living on. So maybe some tish and lap next week. Right, so definitely no star chi, no star pob. Have a good week, and I will speak to you all soon.
Watching the live stream.
Mummy's watching it.
To the microphone.
Love you. See you all next week. Bye.
Brilliant, wasn't he? He really is special, and he says it's in this hidden history is in our hands. Very fragile it is too, and it was in good hands when Ross was around, and we've all got to try and do our bit. So going over the chat from this evening. When I'm playing a video like that, I can't see my own chat. Need two computers really. We had great fiddle playing. I was Arnie on the violin fiddle earlier. Beautiful, they're saying. And Steve P says he's been looking at what may be a Phoenician obelisk, Clulo, whatever that is, cross. Also looking, another name of Yahweh is Baal. Talking about the Israelites there. Talking about Alan Wilson being educated when he was very young. My dad was born in 1927, and he always called us Welsh Jews, and this was God's country. But it only makes sense, that kind of phraseology, when you look at Alan Wilson's description of the migrations. David Church is saying the Bible seems a little confused whether Baal is a rival to Yahweh, but maybe the contemporary controversy was actually over which name should be used. Nimble Horse says that Yahweh could also mean behold, a hand, beholden, a nail. Why HWH without vowels? Legolas says he's amazed even now how much ground was covered by both Wilson and Blackett, Ross, and people like Steve Willits in terms of the ancient Babylonian connections. So many strange areas around Britain in terms of place. Thank you, David. He says, there we are, Paul. Vanishing presentations even happen for the best broadcaster. Yeah, well, I'm not the best broadcaster. As Derek says, that's interesting. If the ancients built the henges to see if it was safe to return north, there must have been some kind of wobble in the stars to observe which settled down. Yeah, a wobble of the planet, magnetic wobble maybe. And of course movement in the solar system, which I think is what the Mabinogi is all about. Steve P says, which denotes Thrutha de Dadana, as does Dane River and lots more. Lud's Church and the Bridestones seem to be these. It's like the Phoenicians came and messed up the frequency network laid by the Toot-Ha. That's beyond me, all of that. That was too deep for me, that one. David Mosley is talking about pentagrams, 4 elements plus quintessence. Yeah, that's another deep one as well, David. But people are looking up what's being said. Oh, that speech transcription is brilliant, isn't it? Yeah, and it comes out with some really good stuff. I noticed a couple of those and I thought, what? They're talking about the starfish there, symbol of regeneration for a long time around the northeast Mediterranean amongst seafaring societies. Starfish can grow replacement arms if one is damaged. That's interesting. Didn't British Empire come out of Emperor of India, becoming a title of the monarch? That would be interesting to find out that kind of origin. Those with ancestors serving in the navies during WW2 may remember how soldiers came back from Normandy after D-Day, after 11th of November 45, but sailors came back up to years later, still stuck out abroad. Why did they come back later? Because navies do, don't they? Ships are out there. It's a long way from the other side of the world, for one thing. Prisoner of war camps in the jungle were not known about here. Bit of talk about the ending of the World Wars. Well, there ought to be talk about the beginning of the World Wars, because Michael Caine on the TV famously said about his children. He wanted to come back from America because his children were in a school that was teaching that the Second World War only started in December 1941 when Pearl Harbor occurred. And then maybe they got a point, because their viewpoint is that it wasn't a world war until that point. I think I've come down to the end now. Real poppies are melon, yellow. Yeah, you're right. Welsh poppies. My mother gave us some. She called them Welsh poppies. Real poppies are melon. Thank you, David. Paul is back. I nearly went to bed when Ross said goodnight. Thank you. We are carrying on because it's the right thing to do, isn't it? And we're always asking for videos. They're going to be stockpiled now until the autumn or whenever the darker nights come in, and or the rain comes first. So if it's a rainy day, I might do some editing. But we'll hopefully stockpile. I did a little video today. It's a little bit out of time scale, but I've lived back in the Baither, Craigie, Llantrisant, Llantwit area since I was 15 in 1973. And I never knew that there was a massive farmhouse in the centre of Craigie. I might even be pronouncing Craigie wrong, because when we came back to Baither, I couldn't pronounce Craigie. Craigie, Tony Refail or Tony Pandy. So I got it all wrong. And I never knew there was this great big farmhouse in the centre of Craigie Village. We were out on the National Garden Scheme Garden Open Day in Craigie today, and one of the new properties that you could go around the garden of was this farmhouse. So I didn't have my camera with me when we first went out, but we decided, it's only a mile or two away, so we decided to come back to use our loo and have a bite to eat and then go back out again. And I took the camera with me and revisited the property got a little interview with the guy. So I'm not sure. Do you want me to put that out? It's out of our time scale because it's like a Tudor farmhouse. But if you want me to put it out, I'll see it in the chat. I will put the video out. There's only a couple of minutes worth. Luckily, when I turned up with a camera, there was a lady who was asking the owner for a history. So I said, oh, hang on a second, let me get the camera out. And then he's telling the lady the history of the farmhouse. Very nice. I'm reading a little bit more chat. I'm not catching it though. I'm not catching the drift doing it this way. It's easier when I have my pen and paper. So I'm not sure how to work out this OBS. Thought I had it worked out a treat. And I was going to finish it after 1 hour. But I let Ross go on because it was such a pleasure. Especially when the two youngsters turned up. And that was a bit of advertising then for Tony's LP as well, if there's any copies still left available. So they were talking about Rob Shaw's book. It's been in print now for about 2 years, judging by that rerun. The Architecture of Power. And Rob has got a whole variety of things available, which I've asked him to put on the Facebook page as links, so that anybody who wants to follow the full story of Rob's work, it'll all be there. So maybe Rob could do that. So I'll play another piece of music as I usually do. Some of my photos, Steve J. Preston's music, local singer-songwriter, composer, actor, teacher. He teaches School of Arts and a variety of other things. There's a great video of Steve riding his motorcycle. So I might put that one out soon as well. So we'll go over to that while people can close the chat.
It was a night like this, first time for everything. It was a throwaway kiss, smiled like you just tipped the service. Took it just far enough, you knew I'd follow. Drawn in by the knot around my heart. And now it's all become like fire walking. Don't look down, don't stop, 'cause I know you'll only burn me up. Oh, you never have enough, I'm fire walking. Your love's like a flame, but I know you'll only burn me out, 'cause you never have enough. It was a night like this, you became my everything. Never thought that I would miss the days before I paid for blindness. Took me to a dangerous place, you knew I'd follow. Lit the coals and placed them in my heart. And now it's all become like fire walking. Don't look down, don't stop, 'cause I know you'll only burn me up. Oh, you never have enough, I'm fire walking. Your love's like a flame, but I know you'll only burn me up, 'cause you never have enough. You took the shape of all my dreams and fantasies and bold extremes, until the day you was a night like this, last time for everything. It was a throwaway bliss, smiled and left like you thought I was dead. And now it's all because like firework, yeah. And don't stop 'cause a firework can't burn me up. We'll never have enough like firework, yeah. Your love's like a flame, but a firework can't burn me up. 'Cause you'll never have enough like firework, yeah.
Well, I enjoy that guy's music, and that's why. And he's given me permission to use it, so that's why he's on a lot. I also like Beth and Parker's music, and I'm sure there's plenty of others that we could use. You've got to be careful over copyright, and sometimes cover versions infringe copyright, unfortunately. Or if the artists, like Keith's grandson, if they've got their own YouTube channel, sometimes it affects it somehow. I'm not sure why it does, but it does. Even when we've been given permission, there we are. Perhaps it just affects the monetization. So that's it for this evening. There's a couple trying to meet up for camping. It has been raining up in North and Mid Wales in Machynlleth and near Wrexham. We had a tiny drop earlier, not enough to do anything for the garden. Luckily where we are, the farmers seem to be doing cattle and sheep. I suppose they need it for the grass, but the arable farmers, according to Jeremy Clarkson, are desperate for rain, otherwise they just can't set the crops. Climate change is really affecting the planet, isn't it? Even in our corner of the world. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed the show. We all categorically enjoy Ross whenever he's about. I know I enjoyed our time together, and so it's auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, arrivederci, ciao, tschüss, and not forgetting, nostar. So until we see each other again, don't forget, if you seek, you will find. Thank you very much. Bye.